So you want to own a chocolate factory. Picture it. Massive stainless steel machines running around the clock. Thousands of bars sliding down conveyor belts every hour. Delivery trucks pulling out of the loading dock every few minutes. Supermarket shelves stacked with your name on the wrapper. Money flowing in, day and night. That's the dream. Now let's destroy it. With numbers. The global chocolate industry is worth more than $130 billion a year. Mars alone generates over $22 billion in annual sales. Mondelez, the company behind Cadbury and Toblerone, pulls in tens of billions more. Ferrero, Lindt, Hershey. Household names built on one product. And yet, some factories producing that exact same product shut down within a few years of opening. Same cocoa, same supermarkets, same customers, completely different financial outcomes. So today, we're going inside the real economics of owning a chocolate factory. The ones nobody puts in the brochure. But before we talk about money, you need to understand what you're actually buying. Most people think a chocolate factory makes chocolate. It doesn't. A chocolate factory converts an agricultural commodity into a branded consumer product. That's the entire business model, stripped down to its core. Which means when you buy into a chocolate factory, you're not just buying chocolate. You're buying food manufacturing, commodity exposure, supply chain, and global logistics, industrial automation, food safety compliance, inventory management, brand licensing, and retail relationships. Chocolate is simply what comes out the other end. This single distinction, commodity in, brand out, is why this industry sits inside the same conversation as food processing and commodity trading, not just candy. And this changes everything. Because now we can talk about the first cost nobody warns you about. Picture a mid-sized chocolate factory before it produces a single bar. Roasting equipment, grinding mills, conching machines that smooth the chocolate for hours at a time, tempering lines, cooling tunnels, packaging robotics, climate-controlled warehousing, quality control laboratories, food safety compliance systems that never switch off. Now quantify it. A standard industrial warehouse costs somewhere between $80 and $150 per square foot to build. A food-grade manufacturing facility, the kind legally required to produce chocolate, runs $120 to $400 per square foot, and mid-sized food processing plants routinely land between $50 million and $500 million in total project cost, depending on scale and automation. That entire outlay is what accountants call capital expenditure, CapEx, money spent before a single dollar of revenue exists. Compare that to a normal food warehouse, and the gap is obvious. Sanitary drainage, specialized flooring, positive pressure air systems, and pest-proof construction all cost money a regular building never has to spend. The business consequence? Millions of dollars committed before one chocolate bar exists. Most factories start paying interest on that construction debt months, sometimes years, before they sell their first product. But surprisingly, the building isn't what determines whether the business survives. The real threat is growing on farms 4,000 miles away. Most people think chocolate companies control the price of chocolate. They don't. That isn't how it works. The price of cocoa is set on global futures markets in New York and London, the same way oil and wheat are priced. And that price depends on something no factory can manage: weather, disease, and politics in two countries. Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana alone grow more than 60% of the world's cocoa supply. When drought hits West Africa, or crop disease spreads through aging cacao trees, the entire global chocolate industry feels it within weeks. Now quantify what that actually means. Cocoa prices rose more than 200% between early 2024 and their peak near $13,000 per metric ton that December. By early 2025, cocoa was still trading above $10,000 a ton. Mondelez International, the company behind Cadbury and Toblerone, reported the consequence directly. In 2025, revenue grew nearly 6% to $38.5 billion. But the cost of producing that same chocolate jumped almost 25%, and gross profit margin collapsed from 39% to 28%. A drop that flows straight through to operating margin and the bottom line. Earnings fell by nearly 45%. In a year, revenue went up. That's the business consequence. Factories can lose almost half their profit without changing a single thing inside the building. But cocoa is only one ingredient in a much longer list. Now take one chocolate bar and break it apart. Raw cocoa, sugar, milk powder, cocoa butter, packaging, printing, electricity, natural gas, direct labor, maintenance, distribution, retail discounts, marketing, inventory, waste. Most people think the chocolate itself is where nearly all the money goes. Here's what actually happens. Industry cost models show raw ingredients account for roughly 69% of a milk chocolate bar's manufacturing cost. The remaining 31%, labor, energy, packaging, and overhead, disappears before the bar ever reaches a truck. Break it into cents instead of percentages, and it gets clearer. On a typical mass-market bar, food industry cost breakdowns estimate labor adds roughly a cent per bar. Energy, overhead, and maintenance add another cent. Waste from imperfect batches adds roughly 2 cents. Transport adds 1 more. None of those look dramatic alone. Stacked together, they quietly erode margin on every unit sold. Almost a third of what a chocolate bar costs to make has nothing to do with chocolate at all. The business consequence is simple. Margins shrink long before a customer ever picks the bar off a shelf. But that's only part of the story. Because 2 bars can share nearly identical ingredient costs and still sell for completely different prices. People think factories make money by making products. The reality, factories often make more money by owning brands than by owning machinery. The same conching equipment, the same tempering lines, sometimes even cocoa sourced from the same West African cooperatives. Run it under a private label supermarket wrapper, and it sells for a few dollars a pound. Run the identical formula under Lindt, Godiva, or a premium Ferrero line, and it sells for 2, 3, sometimes 5 times more. Now think about this. Mars, Mondelez, Ferrero, Hershey, and Nestlé, the 5 biggest names in chocolate, control well over a third of the entire global market between them. Not because their factories are more advanced, because their brands carry decades of consumer trust that a private label wrapper can't buy overnight. That trust is what investors call brand equity, and it shows up directly on the balance sheet. Same machinery, same cocoa, wildly different profit. The business consequence: consumers are often paying for the story printed on the wrapper more than the manufacturing happening behind it. But branding alone isn't enough to guarantee success, because even the biggest brand in the world can't sell a chocolate bar nobody can find. Which brings us to the part almost nobody outside the industry ever sees. Factories don't sell chocolate directly to you. They sell to wholesalers, distributors, and retail buyers. And those buyers negotiate hard. Retailers commonly mark chocolate up 300 to 400% over wholesale cost, using what the trade calls keystone pricing, roughly doubling what they paid before it reaches the shelf. On top of that, factories often pay slotting fees just to secure shelf space, fund trade promotions to get featured in weekly sales flyers, and absorb the cost of free product just to get a first order approved. A factory can manufacture a genuinely excellent chocolate bar, priced fairly, made with premium ingredients, and still fail, simply because it never wins a place on a well-trafficked shelf. Winning distribution isn't a side detail. In consumer packaged goods, it can determine whether a product survives its first year at all. That's the business consequence. Manufacturing quality and market success are 2 completely separate battles, fought with 2 completely different budgets. But here's the good news for the giants of the industry. The bigger you get, the easier that battle becomes. That good news has a name: economies of scale. A company the size of Mars or Mondelez can lock in cocoa contracts months or years in advance, buying in volumes small factories simply can't match. That buying power alone softens the kind of price shock that cut Mondelez's margins by 10 points in a single year. Scale also means fuller automation, fewer idle production lines, and distribution networks already built into every major retailer's supply chain. A small craft chocolate maker, producing a few tons a year, might need to charge $8 to $10 a pound wholesale just to stay solvent. A global manufacturer, spreading the same fixed costs across millions of bars, can profitably sell for a fraction of that per unit. Compare a regional factory to a global manufacturer side by side, and the math isn't close. Lower cost per bar, stronger negotiating power with retailers, more cash reserves to absorb a bad cocoa season. The business consequence: scale doesn't just help profitability. In this industry, it's often the difference between surviving a crisis and not. But scaling up creates a completely different problem, one that doesn't show up on the factory floor at all. It shows up on the balance sheet. Imagine a mid-sized chocolate factory generating $50 million in annual revenue. In a normal cocoa year, raw materials, cocoa, sugar, milk, packaging, consume about 57% of revenue, based on typical industry cost structures. That's $28.5 million. Payroll takes another 10%, $5 million. Energy and maintenance take 5%. Marketing and packaging design take another 5%. Distribution and trade spend take 8%. Interest on equipment loans takes 3%. Taxes take 5% more. All of that, payroll, energy, marketing, distribution, is what accountants call operating expenses, OPEX, the recurring cost of simply staying in business. After every mandatory dollar, that factory nets somewhere around 6 to 7%, roughly $3 million, on 50 million in sales. Healthy, but nowhere near the billion-dollar fantasy from the opening of this video. Now run the same factory through a cocoa price spike like the one that hit the industry in 2024 and 2025. The one that pushed Mondelez's cost of goods up 25% in a single year. Raw material costs alone jumped from 57% of revenue to nearly 70%. That's an extra $6.5 million in cost, on the exact same $50 million in sales. The $3 million profit doesn't shrink, it disappears, and depending on how much debt the factory carries, it can turn negative. The same factory, selling the exact same volume of chocolate at the exact same retail price, can swing from healthy profit to near zero profit purely because of a commodity harvest 4,000 miles away. So let's go back to the beginning. People think owning a chocolate factory means the money simply flows in, stainless steel, conveyor belts, endless demand. That was never the real business. The real business is a company balancing a commodity it doesn't control, a construction cost it pays years in advance, a retail system that demands a cut before a single bar reaches a customer, and a brand that decides whether that customer pays $3 or $15. So why do some chocolate factories become billion-dollar companies while others barely survive? Not because of better chocolate, because of better cost management, stronger brand equity, and enough scale to absorb a bad cocoa season without going under. Mars didn't reach $22 billion in annual sales by having the best tasting bar on the shelf. It got there by controlling nearly every variable in this video, at once, for over a century. That's the real economics of owning a chocolate factory, not a candy business, but a financial machine, stretching from cocoa farms in Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana to a supermarket shelf near you, balancing commodity risk, industrial costs, retail leverage, and brand power, every single day. Now you know what's actually happening behind the wrapper. Subscribe if you want to keep uncovering the hidden economics behind the products and businesses you see every day. Thanks for watching.